Good day, everybody. My name is Dr. Francois Tessier. I'm CEO of the Center for Complementary Therapy and Pain Management in Sri Lanka. Welcome to this series of Zoom interview where you discover the most amazing doctors, therapists, philosophers, artists, shaman, psychic medium, healers, etc. that are practicing complementary therapies worldwide in their own way. These people enlighten us with their wisdom, and their journey help us to view the world differently. Today we have a very special guest. We have Mrs. Donna Evan Strauss, a holistic healer from United States. For almost 20 years or 18 years, something like that, Mrs. Donna taught, developed curriculum, and mentor students from the Barbara Brennan Healing School in United States. She's a senior faculty and dean at this international renowned school established by Dr. Barbara Brennan, a reputed spiritual leader, healer, author, and educator. She is a bestseller author, right? This specific school offers a 4-year training program of certified healer, and Donna played a key role in the professional studies of this college. Donna has a degree in mental health technology from the Hahnemann University, maybe she will correct me later, in the United States. And she's the author of Blessings for 1,000 Generations. She's also trained in early object relation with Dr. Orman in New York and the Center for Intentional Living in past life regression therapies with Dr. John Amoroso. As an accomplished and very popular presenter, Donna traveled throughout the world and gave lectures, studies, workshops, conferences throughout the United States, Canada, Mexico, Germany, Czech Republic, China, etc. She supervises psychotherapists and healers all around the world. Mainly, she is the founder of a very special modality or technique that she is calling the Grace Touch Technique and the Living from Grace program. So as a very popular holistic healer, she has a practice in the United States. In short, it is very difficult to introduce such a journey because she went here and there. So I will stop here. And dear Donna, thank you very much for accepting this invitation. Thank you very much to be with us today.
Thank you for inviting me, Francois. It's really a pleasure to be with you and your audience.
Thank you. Very good. All right. So we will jump into our question. My first question is, you are very much involved in the Barbara Ann Brennan School, and you are successively vice president, senior faculty, dean, etc. And we would like to know about this modality. Please tell us the story behind the Barbara Brennan science and who she is, what is this modality, and explain us what is this, what it's all about. What is this modality in energy healing?
I met Barbara Ann Brennan in 1987. I was studying at Hahnemann University, like you said, medical school in Philadelphia, but I also was having a lot of different kinds of experiences that I didn't have any language to express. So Hahnemann was more of a Freudian and humanistic school, moving in the 80s, moving into eclecticism. But I was having experiences of picking up things from clients and people that I didn't know. And I didn't consider myself psychic or anything, but I was having those types of experiences. And after kind of considering that for a while, I met a gentleman named Tad McKeon, and he handed me Barbara's book that she published on her own. And I have that here because most people have the blue book, but this was one that she published on her own. before Bantam took that book, and she took $50,000 of her own money and published this book because she believed in the work so much. And so Dr. Brennan, when I met her, it was phenomenal time coming to see hands-on healing and watching people do deep and profound work in the 80s. That's something that in traditional colleges and universities weren't studying. And she developed this program. She started in 1982 with 12 students. And then the next class was 22 students. The next class was 44 students. And then my class was 112 students. And so the school started growing, and Bantam saw this happening, and they published her Hands of Light book. Now, Dr. Brennan has a degree in science, and she was a NASA physicist for a while, worked at a weather station, but she also studied Alexander Lowen, bioenergetics and core energetics with Dr. John Parakas, and also studied with Eva Parakas, who was a channel of pathwork lectures of 258 pathwork lectures. So on her journey, she was combining all this material. And then she met, I think it was Rosalind Bier, which is a healer, very well-renowned healer, who taught Barbara how to do the chelation work and the energy healing. So Barbara, during that time, combined all those pieces of work between path work, core energetics, and energy healing, and started to create her own program. And from some of her stories that she would say when she worked in New York, the way that she created some of the ways to teach things is she would have a client, she would do some hands-on healing and do something, and she'd like, "What? How did I do that?" And so she would roll back in time and take what she did apart piece by piece to see how she could teach that to others. And she realized that she could teach how to sew and mend a chakra, how to work on organs, how to work in the body in particular ways. So she developed this program, and in the 1990s, everything moved like a plethora. She came out with the book Light Emerging. So the school went from a couple hundred students to 700, 800 students in the early 90s. So by 1994, I graduated from the 4-year training in 92, did 2 years of teacher training. And by that time, the school just boomed, and we decided we needed deans and department heads to write up curriculum, because most of the teachings were, she taught all the healing science skills, and she had a staff that came in and taught the core energetics and other skills. Well, she hired myself as the healing science department head in 94, Patricia Fost as a professional practice department head, Chris Sarubi as what we called the awakening department, which is now the psych spiritual skills, and Andes and Bruce Bell were the creative arts department. So she created department heads to write up all the skills that were being taught by all the different teachers, herself included. So I did that for 6 years for the school, got everything written up with everybody, and we created workbooks. And in 2000, the year 2000, all that work was done, and I became the dean of year 4 and the year 4 studies, professional studies, for 5 years. And while I was doing that, I was studying at Union Institute to see if I could get my PhD. And they said you had to do a project demonstrating excellence. So for my project demonstrating excellence for them, I implemented a supervisor training program for healers around the world. It's now at the school, and it's called the Advanced Studies Brennan Integration Work Program. It's an extra 2 years of study that helps people do supervision for healers around the world. Wow. So in 2005, I decided I needed to retire. For whatever reason, sometimes you get a call, you need to do something else. And that's when I was going on a spiritual journey for myself with Blessings for 1,000 Generation. And that was a deep, profound family healing. And from Hahnemann, I had a lot of background in family systems theory, some psychodrama work. And I had a lot of woundings in my own family that needed to be unraveled, some secrets, that, people were telling, those kinds of things. You see stuff on DNA and genetic stuff. But through meditation and prayer, I unraveled a whole mystery in my family and wrote it in that book. So,
So you were kind of your first healer, your experience based on your own history, and you created a new modality around that. Is that what you're telling?
yes. Well, I started when I left the school. I did that, and within the school, what I want you to know is in the 4-year training program, is so important to understand that each year builds upon the previous year. So when Barbara put this training program together, she wanted the healer to heal themselves. So the first year of the program, you go through the first 3 levels of the human energy field, and you go also into the dimension of the hara and the dimension of the core essence. And that's one of the reasons I went to her school, was because she had this philosophy called the human energy consciousness system, which was the physical body, the aura or the human energy field, the hara dimension, and the core star dimension. And she was the only one talking about core star dimension and intentionality in the early 90s. And then you saw a plethora of books on intention after Light Emerging came out.
Yeah, but nobody.
So in the second year,
nobody wrote it the same way as her, right? She is kind of the.
no, and then that inspired. Yeah, her book inspired so many people when they started going, of course, intention. And I think Wayne Dyer wrote a book on intention after that, and had gone through some very challenging times in his life during that time when he wrote that book. And I think that her book inspired so much work in, I call the 90s the year of intentionality. The 80s were the years of codependency, like in psychotherapy. It goes through waves. And so the 90s was all about intention. And now it's all about core essence. It's all about the light of who you are. So that's what's exciting about our program. And what I wanted to tell you before I talked about myself was year 2 in her, once you build the first 3 levels of your field and you work on yourself, then you work on in relationship with other people. So people say, well, why do I have to work on my relationships? Well, all life is about relationships since you're born in your mother's utero, and then you become a family member, etc. So all healing happens in relationship as well. Yeah. So we spend a whole year on that relationship level, and then we spend time working in the astral plane, because the 4th level is the bridge between the lower levels of the field and the higher spiritual levels. So we spend a year in that level working with astral levels beings and higher guides, and sometimes lower, learning to work with lower energies so you can help anything that's in profound forgetting. And that's what Barbara would talk about. Lower energies are just in profound forgetting of their light. So we train our healers not to be afraid to go into the darkness and help someone come out into the light. And in year 3 of her school, she covers all the organ restructurings, all working on the 5th, 6th, and 7th levels of the field, and sewing chakras and being able to hold that level for 45 minutes to really work and have an impact in a certain area of someone's field. And then the year 4 is all about being in the hara dimension. And to hold that for people who are working on that muscle for 4 years so that they can hold their hara dimension, put their fingertips in somebody else's hara, and sink deep into their line of intentionality and help them heal and align to their purpose for being here. And we work on that a lot before we let people touch somebody else at that depth of their being. And then we have the advanced studies.
There is so many layers. I'm just amazed. And questions are coming to my, it's a very dear to my profession also. And all right. So, okay. How could I formulate clear questions now out of this?
Well, you did ask me a question about my Grace Touch and how that developed.
Yes.
And that kind of evolved out of the work out of all the work that I had done, there was a level of simplicity of working with divine qualities that through the working on my family history and working on transgenerational patterns that were coming down through my family history and unwinding those and creating cellular healing, I realized that we really are restoring those divine qualities that we were born with. And that how do we access those to create an unwinding and a depth of healing? So Grace Touch is all about working with divine qualities more so than working with techniques. It's working with divine qualities and doing restoration work within a whole family system.
Okay.
So,
Right. Okay.
yeah.
Oh my God, I'm crazy. Right, Donna. First, right. First of all, I would like to, for the benefit of the audience, as you could, I would say, familiarize them of what is energy. How could you define for someone that is listening to us that has no idea about that in a very simple way, right?
So, in the most simplistic way, because I can't separate energy from consciousness, so energy is a degree of consciousness, and depending on what kind of consciousness is within the energy, is what you'll experience. So, the best way to describe to some people is when they get this overwhelming feeling of love and they feel something coming out of them, bubbling up from inside of them. Or say when you're young and you're at a nightclub and you feel like somebody's looking at you and you turn around, and we talk about people sending bioplasmic streamers over, that we're always in interaction with energy. When somebody is mad at us and they haven't said a word to us, but all of a sudden we can feel our body start to shake and we know that something's going on, it's coming through the energy field first. Then it impacts the physical body. And that's where Dr. Brennan talked about disease or dis-ease happens in the human energy field first before it migrates down and starts to cause physical disease. And that's why it's important to work with the human energy field when we're healing in the Hara dimension.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So when you are with this modality treating subject, because we don't like to use the word patient. Let's talk about subject, right?
I just call them clients, people that, adult clients,
They are clients.
never patients.
All right. So when you work with these people, you work in the energy field. What are they suffering of? When people go to see a healer, when the people go to see you, does these people feel from physical illness, mental illness, or both, or something else?
I think a variety of things why people come to see a healer. Sometimes when somebody's so frustrated with the medical profession and they've tried everything to change something, and they're not understanding why they're not getting any relief from whether it be back pain, surgical pain, or other types of emotional pain or relationship issues, they get help in the traditional way, and then they get frustrated and they're like, oh, let me try energy healing. Maybe I heard something that might help me. So working with the human energy field helps people work on physical, anything that physical, from digestive disorders, from I got to take the purple pill to maybe I need to slow down in my life and learn how to digest what's going on around me, and slow my digestion down. And so we talk about creating a healing plan, and we create that on the different levels of the field. The second level of the human energy field is all about feelings about yourself. So if you have self-hatred or self-hurt or shame that's in that level of the field, we help people deal with that level of what's going on. And the third level of the field has to do with people's thinking, what we think about ourselves, our self-judgments, or our human level of thinking. So we help people look at the cognitive issues around their dis-ease process. which could be mental health. We get a lot of different people that are at their last resorts with depression, or sometimes they're diagnosed with bipolar disorder, other kinds of disorders, and they want to find a way to heal. But sometimes healing doesn't mean changing the whole brain chemistry. Sometimes healing is learning to accept who we are, love ourselves as we are, and move forward with the dis-ease process that we have so that we can have compassion for ourselves. And sometimes we'll have a full healing, and sometimes our life will change because our attitude towards what's going on with us changes tremendously. And we start to live a fulfilling and healthy life. And disease, from the way that Barbara looks at it, if we think about our core essence, expands through the higher dimension, our intention to be here, and forms the human energy field, we have to look at the spiritual, the divine mind aspect, our spiritual aspect, and our human aspect, and the divine plan. In the fifth level template, the divine plan has the plan for every organ in the body, every system in the body, and in divine order. It's the higher level of divine order, and works with the first level of the field, which people talk about with acupuncture points and stuff like that, the blue lines of light around us that is really close to our tissue. So those levels of the field work together, and we work with people depending on a variety of issues. Sometimes people want a better relationship with their spouse. Sometimes people lost their faith and they're trying to find their spiritual connection, or they lost their connection to their church or their synagogue or the mosque, and they were kind of not getting the answers about their own soul. So sometimes healing is about your soul growth, about finding your longing and living your longing, and lifting things, burdens that you've been having or carrying in your life, so that you could fulfill your life's plan, your purpose.
Right.
So
It's an amazing explanation. I'll remember that next time. Right.
it was a long explanation. It wasn't
Yeah,
your
well,
elevator.
wow. It's a wow explanation. Right, Donna. Something that people might want to know, that's a little bit mysterious, even for us,
Mm-hmm.
when we discover that we are not alone in the spiritual world. You said that yourself, you kind of felt that. How did you discover their presence, and how can you describe the way you feel the spirits, these guides?
Mm-hmm.
And also, if you could talk about Barbara's guide, because she had a guide, right? And this guide helped her a
Mm-hmm.
lot. What is that?
Mm-hmm.
Who are they?
Yes. I think that we all are guided, or we have oversoul or angels watching over us, or disincarnate family members that are keeping their tabs on their descendants. We have different levels, your ancestors and your great ancestors, and spiritual guides. Now, Barbara had Haywan, which was her guide. And a lot of times when she would go into meditation and channeling, and all of her seeds of the spirit and different things that she's written, she'll talk about Haywan being her guide. As she was working in the school, she began to find out that Haywan later was who she was becoming, that we're all becoming higher and higher levels of consciousness, that we are really not separated from each other. We're really not separated from these higher levels of consciousness. And when we remove the barriers of our limited self-definition, and we open our consciousness up, more information will flow through us in a channel. And some people will say, they have a guy named Haywan, or I think in the earlier days when she used to channel with Pat Rodegast, who channeled Emmanuel. And I think Barbara had a guide at that time named Gabriel that she had channeled back in the earlier, probably 70s and earlier 80s. And then Haywan came through. For myself, I had some kind of interesting experiences which led me to the school, which were hearing different voices that tell me to go home or do something because something was important to do, like a strong voice. And then others, impression or thoughts impressed upon my mind. When I was younger, and when I was like in my 20s, I actually had prayed to go to this healing school. I wanted to know more about healing. I didn't know Barbara Ann Brennan. I was in the field of psychology, but I wanted to know what was happening. Said an innocent prayer, and the next day is when I met this gentleman, Tad McKeon, that was in a wheelchair in a store with a friend of mine. And I went in and I saw him in the wheelchair, and I said, oh, in my mind, I said, I wonder if that man could get up and walk, right? And I had my whole mind was thinking about healing. And I said, Donna, just don't talk to that gentleman. Do not even bother saying a word. Go home. So I left and I didn't say a word to him. And that night, when I went to the library for a class that I was taking in the Warminster Library in Pennsylvania, here he came rolling in with the wheelchair into that meeting that I was in that night, the same man. So I was like, oh, maybe I'm supposed to talk to this man. So I talked to him, and that's when he had seen Dr. Brennan in New York as a patient, and he gave me this book. So that was that he handed me her book, and it was sort of like, you never know why you're thinking what you're thinking, but the person I said the prayer, and then the person was in my life. So I felt that my prayers were answered by impressing something in the universal consciousness. I was always curious, how does that happen? How do these happen? And if you read in Blessings, I tell earlier stories that in the 1979, 1980, I had prayed to meet my mother. I had not met my biological mother. And the next thing I know, I met this minister, and I talked to him about this stuff, and he prayed. And then the next thing I know, within 3 months, after 20 years, I get a phone call saying that my biological mother's looking for me.
Wow.
So I felt like something's going on, and I tell my girlfriend, who I'm still really good friends. We've been friends since I was 15. I'm like, what is this? You pray, and then it's not like I'm praying for a car or whatever. I just pray for something, and it manifests. And she's like, oh, Donna, don't pay attention to that. Just move on. And it's interesting because we both in the earlier days worked for General Motors. She still works for General Motors, and my life went in this direction, and we're still best friends. So I feel like I don't have a guide, a name of a guide, like Barbara said, hey, what I feel is when I'm with a group of people and I expand my core essence out through my intention, and I connect with your core essence, and I feel in presence with you or an audience, then the collective unconscious of the group, whatever comes through me, I'm speaking to the soul of the person in front of me about something coming from them. And that I'm just opening myself to be that kind of in that space, in that divine space with the person. So I never say and my husband used to laugh. He goes, why doesn't anybody have a guy called Ralph the plumber or, George the mechanic? And I said to him, sometimes, and sometimes when I'm in a session with a person, I will hear their beloved one might come in and say, tell my son I love him, or tell my son or daughter to forgive me for something. And I will say, wait a minute. I don't know if they want to hear from you. Yes. They're paying me for the session. So I'd have discernment before I say anything like, oh, your loved one is here and they want to speak to you. I tell them, wait a second, let me just see, like, would you like to talk a little bit about your father and da-da-da-da-da. And what do you feel about your father or your mother, whoever's in the room? And then I may open up, if that person is open, that their presence is really here and they have something to say to you. And when that happens, it's usually something that I would never know. And it's usually something that is very uniquely special to healing something in their heart with the loved one. So that's called generational healing with people that have passed and through the fourth level of the fields and stuff.
The modality that you created. it is connected to the modality that you created. It is
Well, this is also connected to Barbara's modality of,
really.
how you open your high sense perception. She teaches through the whole school how to open high sense perception from kinesthetic.
Yeah.
She taught everybody how to be kinesthetic. Then your emotional body, you get people that are like Counselor Troy.
Yeah.
They feel feelings, and they're like, oh, like for Counselor Troy's from Star Trek, where she would always feel the feeling of the people on the other ship, and some people are highly sensitive to those things. I found that I was one of those people. That's why I knew things about people that I wasn't supposed to know, or feelings about people. And then you got the third level, which sometimes you get a vague sense of something, you get a vague knowing, and that's from your third chakra and the third level, and you kind of know something's going to happen or somebody's going to call. And then on the fourth level, sometimes you'll see astral beings or different angels around somebody, or light orbs around someone, or maybe some not so nice things. When I worked in dual diagnosis at the Horsham Clinic, I saw some stuff that was sticking in somebody's neck from when they were doing too much drugs. So they had a lot of astral stuff going on in their field.
Right.
And then you've got, when you go to the fifth level template, you have divine beings that are like spiritual surgeons. So when you're working with like a kidney transplant, and I've worked with people who've given their, a gentleman gave his sister a kidney, and I work with both of the donor and the recipient. Then you have higher precision guides. We have a lot of surgeons that are on the other side that, right, still like to work and guide you, and precision come through and work with you in organ transplants and other things. You just have to be able to stay present with them so they can do their work, and not drop the energy.
Right. In a way, you're giving me answers to myself as a healer, because they are talking to me also, and they are telling me what to do. Sometimes I don't even know. I don't know if it happened to you, but sometimes I was kind of desperate in front of some very difficult cases, and they're calming me down, and they're telling me, go ahead, I will guide you. Or it's not words, but I know that I can go and do something. And when facing the reality, they are working. I am not there. I mean, they are working. Sometimes I don't know. I've learned a lot of techniques, I'm packed with techniques, but it has nothing to do with any techniques, right? Oops.
Sometimes it has to do with some kinds of transmission of an energy that unwinds something that you don't know unless you slow down and you get guided to put your hand someplace and stay there. You could be asked to stay in a place for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and you're just almost like stabilizing something, or putting some kind of energetic stave in some place that's undone. So you will be, once you start working, you will be guided. And the more that you're grounded, and you stay grounded with and connected to your client, that's what's really important. Because you do have some healers that get guidance, and sometimes they're not connected to the client, or they, go deeply into the client. They leave their body and kind of go up and out, and the client's down here and they're with the guides up here. So we try to train our healers to stay really present in the consciousness with the client, so the mystery happens there.
Yeah.
Right. The mystery happens in the
something incredible happens.
Yes. And also, I have to add this piece, because Dr. Norm Shealy, I'm sure you've heard of him.
No.
He came to our school at one point. Look up Norm Shealy, Dr. Norm Shealy. He's worked in this field for many years. But he came to the school at one point to do a lecture with Barbara. And he did say to me, he goes, there is a thing called the placebo effect. And when somebody believes in the healer, it's not only the healer's capacity to shift the energy, it's the consciousness of the person that's asking for the healing, and their belief to receive and take in that transformation in their body. So, and they call that, like, sometimes a placebo effect. And he says, when the top medication, like antibiotic, the top antibiotic in the country is only 29% effective. The rest of it is placebo. The person takes it, they think they're going to get better, their immune system starts to act better, and their body starts to recover even faster. So we don't want to discount energy, and also the belief in the person that's working with the healer, client, or receiver.
The relationship between the two also, right? The relationship between the
Yeah.
healer and the clients, isn't it?
Yes, that's a very important dynamic. And I think Carl Rogers said that in Rogerian therapy, right? He said, unconditional positive regard was the healing factor of the session. So if that therapist had, forget the technique, but if they really had good listening skills and had unconditional positive regard for the person would feel heard and seen and come together on their own. They would start to integrate
Yeah.
because again, relationship is important.
Yeah. Right, absolutely. Okay, so now I understand energy. I understand what spirit can do. Now you talked about the expansion of the college right now. Huh? The college, the
Right.
Barbara Brennan College is expanding. Can you talk a little bit about your plan of expanding the college?
Yes. Once that the final Lisa Van Ostrand bought the company, and Lori Keene, who's been with the school since back even before me, although she graduated with me, she started earlier, and she worked with Barbara in the office as the dean of the school for many years, and teacher training, and taught in the school. Once we all came back together, Lisa bought the school, we came on the board, and we've been doing some restructuring of the whole, because the model needed to change because it was all around Barbara. And if you read in Light Emerging, sometimes in Light Emerging, I think in the latter part of the book, it talks about the group hora.
Yeah.
And whenever you have an organization, we had a group hora around her, and we had to learn to let go of her and have a new group hora and crystalline core coming through the school so that we could expand. And that process has been going on for the last 2 years. And then in the expansion this last year, we started a year one program in California and a year one program in New York City. Okay, so that we could start having at least a 1 year program in different areas of the country to reduce some of the travel that people were having. And then this year we're starting in September, Paris and Turkey. So there's two. And then we have an Oxford school that is a 4 year school, and the US school is a 4 year school in Florida. So
Oxford is in the UK, no?
in the UK, yes. So it's a 4 year program with an advanced studies program there, and then we have a 4 year in Fort Lauderdale. The main office is in Boca, but the school is happening at the Bonaventure in Fort Lauderdale. So we have 5 resident trainings at those locations every year, like 5 weeks a year. Our students get together, and in between class, they do distant learning modules. So they start sometime in late summer, and it goes till June is the end of the school year, sort of like the American way of the school year.
Yeah.
It goes like that.
Yeah.
And then with the COVID-19, we made a major shift, and we put the whole program on line for right now because we could not get together for class 4. And some of us were resistant to being online and doing Zoom and teaching online. We're a little older, we're a little resistant. And COVID-19 said, oh no, you will learn to do online. So we've been teaching, and we put the whole program online like this.
Here we are now.
Right, here we are now. And then I just worked on putting the introductory program so our leaders could do introductory workshops online, and just tested those out this month. And with COVID, then we did a 7 stages of healing that's free to everyone around the world to come on Wednesdays in the afternoon, going through the denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance, rebirth, and creating a new life. So helping support not only our healers in the world, but the public who are going through these different stages as COVID kind of, what I find is very interesting, seeing everybody in their mask and seeing everybody in their defensive clothing and their defenses, and their mask is what we've been teaching in the school for years, that to kind of dissolve our mask, I love mask, our power mask and all of that, and to take it and to dissolve our defenses. And the thing that dissolves it is love. And with COVID-19, you see the amazing love coming from all the doctors and all the people upwelling beyond the mask. And almost the whole world is having to look at each other with our defenses and our masks on. And I'm just wondering, on a broader scale of the whole world, what this is meaningful to everyone, as that we are one humanity, not separate humanity. And COVID-19 doesn't discriminate like people discriminate. So we're getting some grand scale teaching, and we're also getting a dissolving of structures, educational structures and different kinds of structures that have been a certain way, how we watch sports and how we do things. Everybody's going through a major, the structured levels of our energy field are changing and new structures are evolving. So I think about this as when the school went through restructuring, through all the years that I worked with Barbara, we would go through something as a whole school, and then it would be getting us ready for how it was going to happen in the world. And right now I'm seeing, in the last couple of years while we were restructuring and letting go and learning how to let go of the old way and letting a new way come in, so is now the world is going through that in such a profound way.
Yes. Completely.
And being able to bring teaching out to the world, to people in all areas. Like you contacted me, it was like, where did this come from? But I felt like this is a really great time to meet you, which is delightful, and to, be here for your audience in this way. So I thank you for.
Well. We thank you. But I'm not finished.
Okay.
I have so many questions, Donna. It's fascinating to talk to you. As I know, Barbara, now I'm going to jump into theory again because I know it's there. Colors, right? I work with colors, and it took me a lot of times to understand colors, not to understand colors, but colors is vibration, etc., and it's connected to energy healing. And I know, I see you smile already. I know that Barbara already has a way to work with color. Can you talk about that?
Yes. If we think of ourselves as a light being, and light goes through a prism, and you are light, you have color running through your chakra system and your energy body. And yes, we don't necessarily see those colors with our naked eye, but if we begin to go into the second level of our field, Barbara talks about at the second level of the field, every color of the basic rainbow, the red, the orange, the yellow, the green, the sky blue, the indigo, and white is all in our fluid level of our field around us. So she talks about generating those colors through you and doing color breathing, so you activate and clear and charge your own energy field, so that when you put your hands on someone else, you can balance and charge and clear their second level of the field. But if you need to create a color in your hand, you're learning how to say, I need red in my hand for a certain area, or orange, or another color. Platinum. Right now, platinum is really good with viruses and working with different things. So the second level has the primary, but if we move into the fourth level, at all that level of the field, those colors are mixed with like a rose. So it's rose red, it's salmon color, it's lighter. So if you think of a light going the fourth level of the field is mixed with rose, and we were talking about the higher levels of the field have higher vibration of light and color. So if you think of color as light, so color is about light and accessing light through your body. So the higher you go into the sixth level of the field, all the colors have opalescent because they're very high vibration. So when you're in a healing and you need a particular color in a level of someone's human energy field, you can transmit that color. And in Hands of Light and Light Emerging, Barbara has color breathing exercises that our healers do to keep charge and balance and clear their field. So when you put your hands on somebody, your chakras are shining and vibrating, and you know, and you're illuminating the light that you need to bring into the healing.
Wow.
So that's colors.
Yes, colors are fantastic, and colors are used for many years also in healing, and people are very much inspired by the colors, because I was told that even wearing some color are good for you, right? Is there a reason why we are attracted to one color, and why are we? I'm attracted by blue. I don't know if you remarked.
Right.
Is that
and blue is a higher communication, and the blue that you have on your shirt today has a couple different kinds of blue. So you have the blue, which is the level of your first level of your field, which is your physical level, and that's a fine netted blue energy all around your body. Then you have a lighter blue in there, which is sky blue of communication, right? And even the deeper dark blue looks like an indigo that is in the third eye. So you're really activating the colors in your field and also bringing that vibration. And we talk about that too. Do certain people feel really good in red? Do certain people can wear yellow and they look great? And other people put yellow on, and that it's like it makes them look washed out. So and even not only in what you wear, right? Me too. Yellow or lime green does not look good on me. But I have friends, they look fabulous in that color. The colors in your house are important. What you wear is important. When you paint, if you're feeling like you're not feeling well and you're trying to recover, you have color in your house so that you can have that richness of different colors. So even if you have a white, like you're pointing to the white background and everything, you have colored cushions and different colors, orange and greens and certain things. Those vibrancy bring life to us. When we avoid a color and we kind of don't breathe that color, we don't resonate with it, sometimes we need that color in our field. So finding a way, like if you don't wear orange, eat some oranges. If you don't like to wear a certain thing, have it in your food group. Have red peppers and oranges and different colors like that in your food group, so that you're actually stimulating that color in your energy field.
Absolutely. Yeah, I
Yes.
learned that. Yes. Okay. Well, I will limit my question already. We took a lot of time. I would just like to finish about a subject which is research. I believe that there is some research going on, right? Can you talk about what's going on in the research field? Because you've done some.
Well, right now,
others have done also, no?
Well, there's different groups who've done research all over the U.S. on energy and consciousness healing. So there's a variety of schools that do that, and there's schools of thought. Like there's some models of energy healing that have been along, like therapeutic touch and different kinds of models that are kind of like in the mainstream more. And then we've had some different research done with different healers that we have on like meditation and how the brain waves change, etc. And Barbara at one point had started a research department in the school, and then when she was traveling so much, she couldn't spend as much time as she wanted her focus on that. So we just revitalized all that, and we just moved into the main company, a nonprofit. We're actually working on that this week, so you're pretty in tune. We're working with the nonprofit to put the Barbara Brennan School of Healing Research and Healing piece. And she had a name for that department before, and we just we're working this week with the lawyers to revitalize that and to bring the alumni. So we're going to have a non-for-profit research within the school. And then we're always open to partnering with other, because this kind of work, sometimes you have to partner with another school, or somebody has funding, or a hospital that says, oh, we would like to have Brennan Healing Science come in and work with cancer patients. And we've had people do that, work with cancer patients, work with restructuring organs and stuff like that for recovery. Barbara liked the kind of research where when she was in her younger day, where her and her colleagues, I think, were at Duke, and they had a laser, and they went into that room where they were next to the laser machine that was shooting a beam, and they were shooting a beam from the center of their body to the laser, and they could change the frequency of the laser, and it would monitor that back in the early 80s, 70s and 80s, when she was doing some research with Duke. We're always looking to partner with other schools, also medical centers, in order to pair up with research. And so we're gearing that department up now. And there is a lot done in different kinds. There's some research done on prayer. There's research done on Reiki and all kinds of models right now.
Which is interesting, because research is going to bring light about what is energy healing. I strongly believe that it's very important to be done, because some are against that. Some other school of thought in energy healing don't believe we need research, but I believe research is very important.
I think we do. And we have we have a gentleman in the school right now. His name is Leon, and he's very research oriented, and he thinks we need, and people come to the program like when you need them. So he really is kind of a research academic, and thinks that we do need more and more research in this field of what works and which things may work. Sometimes just sitting next to somebody could work. Sometimes meditating and harmonically inducing an energy works, and how do you measure? I noticed with people, like if one person in a group, they've got high blood pressure and they're getting anxious, that can change the blood pressure in the two people sitting next to them. If you take blood pressure, and then if you do calming exercise, you can show that the blood pressure and everything going down, and how effective an energy technique would be to restabilizing somebody's blood pressure, or anxiety disorders and different kinds of things like that can be done and worked with research.
Right.
And simple ways to measure changes.
Measuring is an important factor, because if not, we cannot do any affirmation and comparison, and you cannot publish. There is no way to publish any of these research. Well, Donna, I took a lot of your time, so I don't know how to thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Namaste.
Have a good day. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.